All right, this is take 3. For some reason there is a glitch in the bandwidth of the internet connection. So welcome back to this, all right? Hope your mind and your heart still can be focused on this, on the preaching of the word. Let me just begin again this message on the influence of a godly mother. From Exodus chapter 2, verse 1 to 10. I started with this statement: everyone has been influenced by someone else. Let me say it again. Everyone has been influenced by someone else. Therefore, like it or not, whatever we do or say will influence someone else. According to Oxford Dictionary, influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, and behavior of someone else. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States of America, once said this: "All that I am or ever hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." He also said, "Behind every great man, there is a great mother." I believe the biggest influence that affected many lives through the history of mankind is the influence of mothers. The influence of a mother begins from the moment that she delivered that child, or before even that child was delivered, was conceived. When that child was conceived, that mother has already expressed that love and care, and her acts of love and care shapes the child's minds and hearts from the early ages. Today we're going to see this testimony in Exodus chapter 2 of a godly mother whose name was not popular, but yet she had a popular son by the name of Moses. Her name was Jochebed. We're going to look at her brief life history of Jochebed. That have a great impact. There's an eternal impact in many lives, even today. To understand and appreciate the account of Jochebed, I want to give you the background of this account in Exodus chapter 2. The children of Israel had been living in Egypt for about 370 years at this time, where from the moment Jacob and his family moved to this land through his son Joseph, and then after Joseph and all his generations died, there was a new king in Egypt who did not know Joseph. So the number of the population of the Hebrews children, they grew so mightily, the Bible said. They are fruitful and multiplied until to the point where the king of Egypt saw this and he was fearful. He was afraid that one day, because the number is so big and it's growing, the number of the population of Hebrews, that one day they will go with the enemies and depart from the country. So then he devised these 3 unsuccessful methods to stop the exploding population of the Hebrews. First, he afflicted the Hebrews males with severe manual labors. However, the Bible says that they continue to grow, continue to multiply, and they grow stronger. So then he devised a second plan. He called up the Hebrew midwives and told them that every male child that was born is to be killed. But then the Hebrew midwives, they feared God more than fear Pharaoh. So Pharaoh's plan failed, and God blessed the midwives. So then Pharaoh had this final device that he believed will stop this growth of the Hebrews children. He commanded his army to annihilate all the Hebrews' male-born baby to be cast into the Nile River. So imagine if you were Jochebed living in this situation with so much trouble. And so that's where this chapter 2, verse 1 to 10 comes in. In chapter 2, in verse 1, it says this: And a man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. When she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sisters said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." In these 10 verses, we're going to look at 3 things about Jochebed. How she was a godly mother who influenced her child. First, I want you to see a godly mother influence her child with her love. A godly mother influenced her child with her love. There was not much saying about Jochebed's childhood background, but we find in the Bible that she was a Hebrew woman born in Egypt through the descendants of Levi, Jacob's 3rd son. It's quite interesting that the descendants of Levi were under mark of disgrace because of the fierce and cruel revenge that Levi and his brother Simeon took against Shechem for his sister's tragedy. So Jacob foretold this in Genesis 49 verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Imagine being born in a family with a reputation such as this. But the Bible also tells us that she was married to someone from the family of Levi named Amram, who was the nephew of Jochebed. And so at this time, apparently, it was not unlawful for the nephew to be married to the auntie, not until the law of Moses is passed. So then, one thing interesting about her, about Jochebed, we can find it from her name, the meaning of her name. The name Jochebed means Jehovah is her glory. Jehovah is her glory. This is interesting because that name testified first about her family, her children, her parents. Her parents gave that name. And Jochebed was actually the first name in the Bible who carries the name Jah or Jehovah in their name. That says a lot about the faith of her parents. And this also says a lot about who she was, because she lived according to her name. She was a godly woman because she seek for the glory of God to be exposed or to be testified in her and through her life. One thing we can learn from this is that before Jochebed was a godly mother, she was a godly woman. To be a godly mother, you must first be a godly woman. Let me say it again. To be a godly mother, you must first be a godly woman. Upon Upon the birth of Moses, she has raised 2 children. Up to this point, she had her first child named Marion, who was 10 years old, and Aaron, who was about 3 years old at this time. And as we read this account, just in Exodus chapter 2, we found that Jochebed was greatly pregnant. When she heard the news that Pharaoh commanded his army to kill all the baby infants, boy, into the Nile River, imagine, the trouble perhaps that come upon her mind. However, something is different with Jochebed because of her faith in the living God. Notice in verse 2 when it says, "So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was beautiful child, she hid him 3 months." In the midst of this troubling time, she looked upon her child was as beautiful child. Now, that word beautiful in there, in the original text of the Bible, means favor or pleasant. In Acts chapter 7, verse 20, the testimony of Stephen, he mentioned this about Moses, and he says, "At this time Moses was born and was well pleasing to God." That's what the word beautiful means. Well pleasing to God. That Moses, when Jochebed saw that baby boy, her baby boy, she saw God's pleasure. And that reason of that was because she knew God. She had a close, intimate relationship with the living God. Her love for God was expressed in her love for that child. She saw the child was beautiful. As the Bible says in Psalms 127 verse 3, "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward." In Psalms 127 verse 3, it says, "Children are God's heritage and a position, and is from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is a reward." Children are God's possessions. They belong to God. And God entrusted us with the child, his possession. Every mother has been given the privilege to receive God's reward or blessing. In the time that we live in, unfortunately, many mothers think that children are burdensome. Children are troublesome. But as a godly mother, like Jochebed, we must see our children through the love of God. baby